Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, we have finished with our module human population and environment in the last class. So, today we are going to complete a very short module that is regarding the global environmental issues. Okay, so let us quickly do a revision first of all of what we did in the last class. Okay, so in the last class, first of all, we have seen uh, the different type of the theories, the population growth theories, starting with the first one, that is a Malthusian theory. Okay, so I hope everyone is clear with that. Okay, secondly, we saw the another theory by the scientist named Karl Marx. Okay, that was known as a Marxian theory. Okay, so that also we have seen in the last session. We discussed the positive points, negative points, and what they have proposed in the population growth theories. Okay, so that we have seen into the detail. Okay, thereafter we saw the different population forecasting method. Okay, so what are the different methods by which I can just calculate the population of the future? That is, we also saw one of the examples where we had the data of population from 1971, 81, 91, 2001. And if I want to calculate, or if I want to just predict the population for 2021, 2011, 2031, I can do it by the arithmetic formula. Okay, so arithmetical increase method, we also covered up the numericals, and then there are many other theories that we just saw the names of. Okay, so any doubt in any of those numericals, you can just tell me at the end of the session. I will help you out personally. Okay, also, since that is a part of your midsem syllabus, I have uploaded the notes on the e-content, so you can refer to that. Okay, and try to understand that. Okay, thereafter in the theoretical section, we saw the some of the different definitions. Okay, crude birth rate, crude death rate, sex ratio. Okay, so all those definitions are again very important for a short questions. Okay, so that you should just remember. And last but not the least, we saw the demographic transition model. Okay, by every country goes by this demographic transition model at some or the another stage. So what is that we understood that in the very much detail. Okay, so now let me start the today's session with the important point, that is global environmental issues. Okay, okay, so first and foremost is the acid rain. So this symbol, or you can say this picture, is indicating all the components of the acid rain. Okay, so in the next slide we have the definition. Okay, so first of all, let us see the definition. Okay, so acid rain is the rain that is more acidic than normal. Okay, it is more acidic in nature due to certain presence of certain components. Acid rains spread and damage involves weather, chemistry, soil, and the life cycles of plant and animals on the land, and from acid rain in the water. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, the major sources of acid rain. So let us go back to the first module that we discussed. It was air pollution. So we saw over there the primary and the secondary air pollutants. So at that time we saw the effects of the SOx and NOx. Okay, so it is the same thing that is contributing to the major chunk of the acid rain. Okay, so now you can see over here that due to the pollution of the industries, okay, SO2 gas, nitrous oxide gas, okay, sulfur dioxide, all this are going back on the it is going back to the surface of the earth, and when it mixes with the normal rainwater, it creates it as a acidic rain. Okay, then there are two types of the components of the acid rain. One is dry deposition, another one is wet deposition. So that is how the type of the acid rain is classified under. Okay, so wet deposition and dry deposition. Okay, yes, if there is any doubt, please mention on the chat box. I will be happy to answer that. Okay, so now what is the difference between wet deposition and dry deposition? So as per the name, wet deposition refers to the acidic rain, fog and snow. As this acidic water flows over and through the ground, it affects a variety of plants and animals. So its effect is long lasting on these plants and animals. Whereas Dry deposition refers to acidic gases and particles. About half of the acidity in the atmosphere falls back to Earth through the dry deposition. So, both are equally dangerous. Now, what are the different causes of acid rain? So, since it is causing a lot of problems, if we can curb or if we can control it at the start, what should we do? Okay, so what are the causes? So, burning coal, oil, and natural gas in power stations makes electricity, giving off sulfur dioxide gas. So, the main area where the sulfur dioxide gas comes from is the burning of the coal, fossil fuels, oil, natural gas, okay, in the power station to generate the electricity. Okay, then burning petrol and oil in vehicle engines gives off nitrogen oxide as the gases. So both gases are uh, emitted from the burning process. Okay, these gases mix with the water vapor and rainwater in the atmosphere, producing the weak solutions of sulfuric acid and nitric acid. Okay, so which is in turn known as a acid rain when it falls back on the surface of the earth. Okay, so this is the entire cause, you can say, regarding the acid rain. Okay, now formation of sulfurous acid. So how it is formed? So S, that is sulfur plus oxygen, gives SO2. Okay, and SO2 when it reacts with H2O, it gives rise to H2SO3. Okay, and formation of sulfuric acid. Okay, it is two atoms of SO2, two molecules of SO2 plus O2 gives 2SO3, and SO3 when it reacts with H2O, it gives rise to H2SO4. Okay, so please copy down these equations. They are very important for the exam point of view. Okay, then again the chemical process for the formation of nitrous acid and nitric acid. So N2 plus O2, in the earlier step we just first of all did S plus O2, so it gives rise to 2 times NO. Okay, and H2O, again when it reacts with 2 NO2, it gives rise to HNO2 plus HNO3. Okay, so this is how the nitrous acid and the nitric acid are generally formed. Okay, again this is important. Okay, for the short questions, for the equations. Okay, so these are some of the list of the man-made sources that are causing the problem of the acid rain, that is SO2 and NOx gas are emitted from the industries. Okay, so this is the movement of the pollutants. Okay, so gaseous pollutants in the atmosphere are being stored over here. Okay, and due to the natural sources like the volcanic eruptions, again it gives rise to the NOx gas in the atmosphere. Okay, so during the precipitation process, again it goes back to the surface of the earth in the form of the dry deposition and in the form of the wet deposition. Okay, so this is how the acid rain is generally formed, and it is coming back to the surface of the earth. Okay, so what are the effects of acid rain? So whom under whom the effects will be there? It will be there on the non-living things, on living, and it will be on the soil. So let us study that one by one. So effects on non-living. So very important monument, that is the Taj Mahal in Agra, suffering from sulfur dioxide and sulfuric acid and other fumes, pollutants that are released from the Mathura refinery. Mathura is a very close by region. Okay, and there are a lot of refineries and the industries over there. So it is slightly changing the color of the marbles, it is slightly changing the color of the monument. Okay, so it is a very very dangerous task. You can see acid rain causes extensive damage to the building, the statues, the bridges, and the structural materials of marble and limestone. Okay, in the case of the air pollution also, we saw that some of the sculptures and some of the monuments, they loses its original color, or they loses its shape due to the high deposition of the sulfur, due to the high deposition of the acid green. Effects on living. So on the human health, the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide causes respiratory diseases like asthma, chronic bronchitis, etc. Okay, tiny particles cause difficulty in breathing of humans and animals, and it also leads to a permanent damage of the lungs. Okay, so this is again a very drastic impact on the human health, on the living people. Okay, on the water animals, so acid rain increases the acidity of the lakes. So as you know that the wet deposition brings this variety of the gases, or you can say the variety of this components or the pollutants back on the surface of the earth along with the water. So when it goes to the water bodies, it increases the acidity of the lakes and the water river, on the rivers. Okay, so which is directly affecting the aquatic system, because certain times what happens, prey predator relation is maintained in the aquatic animals. So even if the smaller animal is getting fed by this thing, okay, with the harmful pollutants, when the bigger animal will feed on the smaller animals, again in turn they will take that composition of the wet deposition, so it will destroy the entire marine life. And as a result of that, a whole food chain is being disturbed into the marine animals. On trees and soil, acid rain dissolves all the nutrients and the useful minerals for the tree to grow. It weakens the process of the photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis is a very important process, so it weakens it. Acid rain leaches potassium, calcium, magnesium, etc., essential elements from the top of the soil. So, whatever the important nutrients that are present with the soil layer, okay, acid rain leaches that particular thing from the top layer of the soil. Okay, so soil becomes slightly useless in nature. Acids activate aluminium from the soil, which leaches into water, and the fishes die as a result of that. Drinking water is generally contaminated. Acid rain damages the leaves of the plants that you can see in the picture, and also it depletes the fertility of the soil. Okay, next is how to prevent this. Okay, since we know that it is very dangerous in nature, since we also know that what are the important areas due to which it is caused, but sometimes what happens is due to some or the another requirement we cannot stop it. So what are the certain remedial measures? So one is to reduce the coal use and increase the use of natural gas and the renewable resources. If the need to coal if the need to burn coal is still necessary, then using a low sulfur coal would be an important alternative. And another one is use an alternative energy source. So these are some of the preventions and some of the suggestions. Okay, next is ozone depletion. So as you know that ozone depletion is a very serious challenge, because due to depletion of the ozone layer, what happens is UV radiations enter into the surface of the earth, and when it enters into the surface of the earth, it will create a lot of ecological imbalance. Okay, so let us see that. So how this ozone layer is formed: O2 reacts with sunlight, okay, and it breaks the O2 into O plus O. Okay, and when this O, that is single atom, it reacts with O2, it gives rise to ozone, that is O3. Okay, so Chapman cycle. First of all, let us understand what is the meaning of Chapman cycle. He introduced the cycle in 1930. Okay, so he proposed a series of reactions to account for the ozone layer. Okay, that is the initiation reaction was O2 plus light, as we saw in the earlier case, that gives rise to O plus O, which can be written as 2 times oxygen. Okay, the next is propagation, that is O plus O2. Okay, it gives rise to O3, that is ozone, and it generates heat in forming the ozone molecule. Okay, and again, ozone molecule in presence of the light breaks down into O2 plus O. Okay, now this O atom, which is again remaining in the termination reaction, it again reacts with ozone molecule. Okay, and it gives rise to two oxygen molecules. Okay, so this is the Chapman cycle. Okay, so what is the cause of the ozone depletion? So this we have learned in the earlier module regarding the air pollution, that the destruction of ozone layer is mostly caused by the chlorofluorocarbons. We have learned mostly everywhere that there are CFCs. CFC is there, which is responsible for the depletion of the ozone layer. So now, what is CFC? That we are going to discuss in detail. Okay. Then, what is another cause? Another cause is nitrous oxides. Okay, so let us see what are CFCs. So CFCs full form is chlorofluorocarbons. Okay, so composed of elements like chlorine, fluorine, and carbon. Okay, they were welcomed by the industries. Why? There are certain reasons why CFCs are very helpful. Okay, so what are the reasons? Low toxicity, chemical stability, and they are economical in nature. Okay, how to use them? As a refrigerant, as blowing agents for making flexible foam, and they are used as a cleaning agents. So the maximum use of the CFCs is in the refrigeration process. Okay, and CFCs are very dangerous as they emit a certain material which causes a depletion of the ozone layer. Sorry. Okay, so ozone depletion. So what are the causes? CFCs remain stable in troposphere due to unreactivity. So in troposphere, they will remain stable in nature. But once in the stratosphere, they break down the UV rays, releasing a highly reactive chlorine atom with others that in a chain reaction breaks apart ozone. Okay, so it will remove or it will release a highly reactive chlorine atom. Okay, so you can see over here that there is a CFCl3 molecule, but due to chemical reaction, this Cl molecule is reduced or it is removed. Okay, so this is the generalized equation. So let us see the chemical equation now. So let's see first of all step by step process of this particular reaction. Okay, so you can see over here that the summary of the equations or summary of the reactions is given over here first of all. Okay, so ultraviolet light hits a chlorofluorocarbon molecule, that is a CFC molecule, such as CFCl3. CFCl3 is one type of the chlorofluorocarbon. So what it does is it breaks down a chlorine atom from that and it remains CFCl2. So you can see over here that CFCl2, out of that one chlorine atom is being removed. Okay, so the chlorine atom attacks an ozone, that is O3 molecule, pulling out an oxygen atom of it and leaving behind the O2 molecule. So as you can see in the earlier reactions also, that out of O3, it generally breaks down into O2 plus O. So that O atom is freely remaining. So this chlorine will attract that O atom and it will form ClO. Okay, so that is what is happening over here. Can you see in the reactions? CFCl3 plus ultraviolet radiation, so Cl is broken down. Okay, and CCl2F is remaining. Okay, so this Cl reacts with the extra atom of oxygen and it gives rise to ClO plus O2, and that reaction is repeated many number of times. Okay, so chlorine atom and the oxygen atom join to form a chlorine monoxide. So when only one atom of oxygen is there, what is it called? It is called monoxide. As we saw in the case of the carbon monoxide, the CO is called carbon monoxide, so ClO is called chlorine monoxide. Okay, so a free oxygen atom pulls the oxygen atom of the chlorine monoxide to form O2. Okay, so again, oxygen atom is available freely, so it pulls off that from the again the ClO and it forms Cl plus O2. So that you can see over here. Okay, so once free, that chlorine atom is off to attack another ozone molecule and it begins the cycle again. So now what is happening? The Cl atom that is there, okay, that attracts another oxygen molecule from the ozone, that is from the O3. Okay, and it again forms ClO and it breaks down in a process the entire ozone layer. So it is very dangerous process. So I hope you understood this process. Okay. Okay, what is nitrous oxide? So nitrous oxide is emitted by, okay, first of all, if you want to copy down the cycle, you can just note down the important points. Also, these reactions are important, so please just do that. Okay. So next is, what is nitrous oxide? So nitrous oxide is emitted by supersonic aircrafts during the combustion of the fossil fuels, by the action of the bacteria, and by the use of the nitrogen fertilizer. Okay, so whichever the fertilizer has nitrogen, okay, it is causing the rise, it is emitting nitrous oxide. So effect of ozone, so impact on the human health. So it is a very famous thing that it causes a sunburn, or it causes the cataract in the human eyes, or it causes the skin cancer. Also, it suppresses the immunity of the people, it lowers down the immunity of the people. So this is the effect of the ozone depletion. So again, I'm repeating that ozone is a very important layer, okay, and the CFCs that are hampering, or they are breaking down this ozone layer, are very dangerous. Okay, so stratospheric ozone and UVR, that is ultraviolet radiations. So ultraviolet radiations, high energy electromagnetic wave emitted from the sun. It is made up of wavelength ranging from 100 nanometer to 400 nanometer. So you can see the scale of range 100 to 400 is called the ultraviolet or UV radiations. UV radiations include UVA, the least dangerous form of UV radiation, with a wavelength range between 315 to 400 nanometers. So this range is known as a UVA, this range is known as a UVB, and this range is known as a UVC. Okay, so UEB is between 280 to 315, and UEC, which is most dangerous, it is between 100 to 280. So UEC is unable to reach the Earth's surface due to stratospheric ozone's ability to absorb it. So this does not reach the surface of the Earth because stratospheric ozone generally absorbs that particular radiation. Okay, so just imagine that if it reaches the surface of the Earth, it will cause a lot of damage. Okay. So, with respect to the food supply, it reduces the photosynthesis, the crops are affected, it yields the vital crops like corn, rice, soybean, cotton, and wheat, and it will decrease in the nature. It kills plankton, affecting the population of the zooplankton. Okay, it is one type of the bacteria, fishes, and the marine animals. Okay, protection of the ozone layer. Now, since we see over here that the ozone layer should be protected, if it is depleted, it will cause a lot of problem in the entire environment, and it will create a lot of ecological imbalance in the nature. So what is done to protect the ozone layer? So create the reliable models to gain a better understanding of the effects of ozone depletion has on organisms living within the different ecosystems. Enforcement of Montreal Protocol. So this was one of the protocol that was signed by the various countries. So it was framed in 1987, and the participant countries agreed to freeze the production of the CFC. Okay, so if you reduce the production of the CFC, then in turn it will directly affect the protection of the ozone layer. To reduce the concentrations of chemicals responsible for ozone depletion, monitoring chemicals being emitted, gain a better overall understanding on just how ozone depletion is affecting our planet. Next is what is the meaning of greenhouse effect and what is the global warming. Okay, so greenhouse effect, again, it is a very popular concept. So it is the rise in the temperature of the earth that experiences because certain gases in the atmosphere trap the heat from the sun rays. So these gases, what they do is they trap the sun rays. Okay, so due to this trapping of the heat, okay, overall temperature of the earth's surface will rise. So you can see in this picture, incoming solar radiation is being absorbed by the surface of the earth. So as a result, the temperature of the earth's surface increases overall. Okay, so which are these greenhouse gases? So the list is given over here: carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane, CFCs, and ozone. But a very serious task that you can see over here, serious challenge over here, is 54% of the greenhouse gas is just comprised of the carbon dioxide. Okay, so that is again a serious issue. 21% is CFCs, and the remaining is divided into the different smaller proportions. Okay, so why is everyone going for a carbon free environment? Okay, you must have heard in many places that the company is planning to go carbon free, or it is planning to have a net zero carbon impact by 2030 or by 2025. Okay, so because it is creating a lot of greenhouse gases, it is increasing the proportion of the greenhouse gases, and the CO2 is the main responsible factor for that. Okay, so that is why this is a serious challenge and it is a serious issue. Okay, so human activity is adding more gases to naturally occurring layer of the greenhouse gases. This thickens it so it can not let as much heat return to the space, and so temperature rises gradually. Okay, so what are the greenhouse gases? CO2, 50% contribution roughly, forming burning coal and from burning coal and oil and the removal of the vegetation. CFC, that is contributing around 20% from the air conditioners, refrigerators. Methane, that is 16% from the rice growing, animal waste, swamps and landfills. Ozone, that is O3, that is around 8%, which is coming from the air pollution. And nitrous oxide, that is 6%, that is coming from the fertilizers and the burning of the coal and oil. So these are the list of the different gases, main contributors of the greenhouse gases in the form of the proportions also. Okay, next is carbon dioxide. So it is probably the most important of the greenhouse gases and is currently contributing around 50 to 60% of the enhanced greenhouse effect. So out of the total value, 50 to 60% goes from the carbon dioxide. So enhanced are human activities which are not natural. Okay, so global carbon dioxide emissions chart is given over here. So you can see from the deforestation around 23% of contribution, coal manufacturing around 22%, from the petroleum industries around 37 percentage, and from the natural gas around 15 percentage. Okay, so just have a note of this very quickly. It is important for short questions, MCQs and 1 mark, that which is the main contributor or which is the second most highest contributor of the CO2 greenhouse effect. Okay, next is, where do the carbon dioxide gas comes from? So it comes from basically human respiration, from the industrialization process, from the burning of the fossil fuels to generate the electricity and the power plants. We earlier saw that carbon dioxide is mostly emitted from the power plants, burning of the forest, that is lesser trees. Okay, CO2 is now one third times more than that was before the industrial revolution. So you can just see that the impact of the greenhouse gases is also increased by 1 by 3 times. That is, by 33 percentage it has already increased due to the CO2 itself alone. Okay, so that is again a serious and a challenging task. So just have a quick note of this. Okay, next contributor is nitrous oxide. So nitrous oxide has one of the longest atmospheric lifetime of the greenhouse gases that can last up to 150 years. Can you think of it? 150 years. Okay. So again, the sources are listed in this figure. Okay, where does nitrous oxide come from? The maximum proportion is from the agricultural soils. Okay, then from the fossil fuel consumptions. Okay, so all in all, you can see over here that the different ratios of the nitrous oxide emissions are also mentioned. So since the industrial revolution, how much was CO2? It was one third. Okay, the level of the nitrous oxide in the atmosphere has increased by 16%. CO2 was 33%, this is 16%. So you can just imagine that due to the second contributor, that is nitrous oxide, again, the proportion of this greenhouse gases is increased by 16 percentage. So where does this come from? It comes from the exhaust of the vehicle and also from the nitrogen based fertilizers that are used in the fields. Okay, so this nitrous oxide is generally coming from the these two areas. Okay, and serious challenge is the vehicles that we use. Okay, all these vehicles emit a lot of harmful pollutants. Okay, so and there is no remedial solution for that. Okay, so that is why people are started shifting or their focus is on the electric vehicles. Okay, so that the burning of the fuels does not happen and you can achieve a better result. Then methane. So methane accounts for 20% of the enhanced greenhouse effect. So around 20% contribution is by the methane. It remains in atmosphere for 10 to 12 years, less than the other greenhouse gases. Earlier we saw for the nitrous oxide, it remains in the atmosphere for 150 years. So this is just for 10 to 12 years. So it is comparatively shorter life duration. So now where does this come from? It comes from the bacteria living in the swampy areas, from the wet rice cultivation, waste in the landfills. Okay, earlier in the solid waste management, we saw that there are landfills that are created due to dump the waste. Okay, so from those, again, this methane can be released. Okay, each molecule can trap 20 times as much heat as the CO2 molecules. Okay, so why are these greenhouse gases dangerous? Because they trap the heat and they increase the overall temperature. So you can just see over here that this methane molecule, it has capacity to trap 20 times more heat as compared to the CO2. Though CO2 is larger in number in the terms of the proportion, but one methyl molecule is equivalent to 20 times the heat that is captured by the CO2 molecule. So you can see that proportion is less, but the impact or the effect on the atmosphere will be massive due to methane. Then CFCs that we already discussed right now. So where do they come from? They come from the aerosol sprays, making foam, packaging, coolants that are used in the fridge, air conditioners, and in the solvents. Each CFC molecules can trap as much heat as 1500 to 7000 CO2 molecules. So earlier for methane it was just 20, but each CFC molecule is 1500 to 7000 times as dangerous as CO2. Though it is again a very less number in the terms of the proportion, but the impact is significant. It can remain in atmosphere for a long time Atmospheric CFC is 0.00225 parts per million. Okay, so just have a quick note of both of this. Okay, where do they come from? Okay, next is what are the effects of global warming? So the melting of ice caps in the polar region will be there due to the global warming because of the increase in the temperature, increased probability and intensity of the droughts and the heat waves, warmer waters and more hurricanes, and higher chances of the spread of the diseases. So you can see that the melting of the ice caps happens in the polar region. Okay, so ice cap melts and the sea level generally rises in this region. The loss of the polar ice will have a profound effect on the nature in particular animal habitats. So again, as we discussed in the aquatic or the marine animals, that there is a food chain or a food web that is established. Certain animals also live in a certain conditions only. So due to global warming, what is happening? That certain marine animals which have a particular habitat of a very low temperature. So that low temperature will not be maintained due to the effect of the global warming. Okay, so due to that, many animals cannot survive in the particular climate. With merely dry lands in the area, it is almost impossible for the people living in that area to grow crops to support their living. This will also cause in a food shortage. So due to certain effects, okay, if water is not available, if higher temperature will be there, if warm temperature will be there, then certain areas where water supply is not there, they will not be able to do any type of the cultivation. So it will cause a food shortage in all and all. So here is again a picture, okay, and the drought and the crop failure will happen. Okay, so when the temperature rises, the ice melts and the sea level will generally rise. The increase in sea level will make it possible for floods to happen in areas where there are seas. So generally what happens is the sea level will rise whenever there will be a flood. Okay, so due to the melting of the ice, the sea level will rise. Okay, and due to the rise in the sea level, the floods will happen in the areas. Okay, so where there are houses and the buildings in the nearby region, it will cause a lot of problem or a damage to those areas or those places. So a lot of amount of the money will be wasted. Okay, and lot of lives will be in a very much danger due to this phenomena. Okay, and also there will be a spread of the diseases because of this. So as the temperature gets hotter, the climate changes drastically. Okay, you must have heard that the flu is generally caused due to the change in the climate. Okay, so due to the change in the drastic change in the climates, a lot of diseases are spread very easily. So vectors such as mosquitoes adapt well to the changes in their ecology and they become stronger. they develop in their body system in order to adapt to the climate change, and so did they develop the new diseases. So as northern countries warm, diseases carrying insects migrate north, and they bring in the plague, the flu, and the diseases with them. So again, this is one of the problems with the climate change that is caused by the global warming. So the effects of the global warming are mentioned over here. So temperature rises, the seawater becomes hotter, the ice cap will melt, sea level will rise, coastal floods and flash floods will happen. Okay, there will be a drought and the heat waves. Food and the water shortage will be there, which will result into the famine and death in a certain circumstances. Due to the flood, what will happen? It will damage the buildings and the homes. Okay, and it will create a big loss to the lives as well as to the properties. So, international steps for mitigating, that is to control the global warming. What steps are being taken? Okay, so some of the international steps are taken to limit the production and the use of the ozone depleting substances. The first protocol that was introduced was the Montreal Protocol, second is the Kyoto Protocol, and the third one is the Earth Summit. Okay, so the main objectives of the Montreal Protocol were to limit the production and the use of the ozone depletion. To participate, the participant countries agreed to freeze the production of CFC, or they limited the production of the CFC, helping developing countries to use the alternative for the CFC. So as you can see over here, that the CFC is equally dangerous to 7,000 molecules of CO2. Okay, so if any alternative solution is found to the CFC gas, okay, they should be much more promoted. So that was the idea that was shared in the Montreal Protocol, and the participant countries did freeze the production of the CFC. Kyoto Protocol was held in Kyoto, Japan in 1997 December, and it has specified the commitments of the different countries to mitigate the climate change. This protocol requires countries to reduce their overall greenhouse emissions. So a specific benchmark was being made, okay, and to adhere to those benchmark, it was suggested that the certain greenhouse emissions should be controlled by the country as a whole. Okay, so it is a moral responsibility of the entire country to see to it that the emissions are kept under the check. And the third one was Earth Summit. So United Nations Conference on Environment and Development held the summit at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil in 92 and established the principles for reduction of the greenhouse gases. So these are the three main important societies, or you can say the commitments that were made by the member nations in order to control the effect of this greenhouse gases, global warming, the climate change. Okay, so all in all, the earth, different countries on the earth have taken the very appropriate steps to control it. Okay, and hope so in a near future we try to control it up to a very higher level. Okay, so thank you. This is it regarding the topic. So any doubts, please mention. Okay, if there is no doubt, then I'll move forward to take your attendance. Okay, so everyone just stay online. No need to mention the attendance on the chat box. I will take the attendance from the participant list. No need to mention the attendance on the chat box. Okay, so I have taken the attendance. Okay, so you can leave now. Yes, I have shared the PPTs that are concerning to the mid syllabus, so you can check in the e-content. Okay, it is available. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.